You swipe your card, it beeps, approved, you don't feel the money leave you. That is the point. Between swiping and seeing the amount on your statement, something happens to your brain that makes it impossible to feel that you have lost something valuable. And suddenly, the amount due is more significant than you thought you agreed to. You tell yourself that you will pay it off next month. But next month is always just a little too far away. Credit card debt is soaring, upwards, at a rate faster than your income, your savings, and most things else in your life. People are blaming overspending, lack of discipline, but there is much more to it than that. Between swiping your card and the beep as it approves your purchase, your brain misses something very valuable. Loss of something valuable triggers a release of pain-inducing chemicals in your brain, similar to actual physical pain. This is why paying with cash makes you feel poorer, on average, than paying by card. Paying with cash, a small amount of pain is inflicted on you by the fact that you have less cash on hand. Your brain recognizes this as loss and you feel poorer. This is evolution in action, as being stingy was rewarded in environments where resources were scarce. Credit cards remove this ability to feel a loss on a visceral level. You are losing real money, but your brain is tricked into thinking that it is nothing. Researchers at MIT ran an experiment where people bid for identical items. They found that people who paid with a card paid almost double for an item than those who paid with cash. Pile this neurobiology on top of another phenomenon called present bias. Richard Thaler, behavioral economist and pioneer of choice architecture, has postulated many strange properties of the human brain, but this one has been especially influential on how we think about credit cards today. Present bias causes people to be far more willing to spend money on something in the present than to forego a purchase or expenditure in the future, even if the two events are objectively equal in value. If I were to offer you $100 today for an item and $100 in 2 years for the same item, you would be much more likely to agree to the first deal. Daniel Kahneman, another great economic thinker, along with his partner Amos Tversky, developed prospect theory, which explains how humans irrationally value losses and gains. Essentially, no one is entirely rational in decision-making, and most people are heavily swayed by what seems like a good deal at the time. Money that is technically not yours yet feels much lighter coming out as well. Combine all of these forces in your brain, and the desire to spend is overwhelming. But this is only two parts of a much more significant force. No credit card was ever designed to help you save money. The whole system is built upon a concept called revolving debt. Think of this as the amount of money owed on the card that is not paid off per cycle. Revolving debt is the lifeblood of credit card companies, as a large balance due with high interest rates is much more lucrative than a paid-off balance due with no interest to the company. The system is built so that you pay just enough to reduce your revolving debt, while always feeling like you are paying a pittance for the privilege. It only takes a few easy monthly payments to realize that the principal of the loan is barely gone. In many cases, the total amount paid in interest exceeds the amount spent on the item itself. The great economist Milton Friedman devoted his life to studying this concept. People are fairly rational in their decision-making, but they are far more influenced by the structure of their environment, as seen through these easy minimum payments. Now consider the environment in which you are spending the money in the first place. Prices are doing something they haven't done in a long time, and that is rising faster than income. Something has to give, and for some, that something is their credit card. Inflation reduces the amount of goods one salary can buy, and for people without substantial additional spending power, credit cards open up the space to buy what they want at the price they need to pay. People are spending on more essential items with credit cards than ever before, rather than just discretionary items. This has fundamental implications for the amount of debt carried on cards at any given time. This has implications on the level of financial security one feels in their day-to-day life, as well as the ability to make purchases with confidence. There is another phenomenon that has fundamental implications on why you are buying more on your card than you do with cash, and that is the Diderot effect. Named after 18th century philosopher Denis Diderot, this concept describes the way a purchase of one item leads to a chain of additional purchases in order to feel satisfied with the first. Diderot himself received a lovely new dressing gown as a gift, and he was so upset by the disparity between it and his other items that he decided to replace everything he owned with similar items. With cash, the initial barrier of spending is much higher, stopping many people from engaging in this behavior. Credit cards remove that obstacle, and everything from phones to clothing to cars can be bought and later found to not match with another purchase, necessitating additional spending to feel as if everything matches. And finally, there is the enticing offer of rewards. Cashback or other reward systems that give a percentage of the amount spent back to the consumer in points or discounts are immensely rewarding to the consumer. Most of the time, however, the value of the rewards is much lower than the amount spent on the item. These rewards are essentially bait and switch, as most consumers fall for the trap, spending significantly more on average on the card than they would on cash, while the rewards are barely enough to offset the interest being charged on the average outstanding credit card balance. When you put all of these forces together, one starts to understand why credit card debt is climbing at a terrifying rate, not just in the United States but worldwide. These phenomena are not new, but the confluence of them at once, especially in an environment that rewards and encourages spending as much as possible, has had terrifying repercussions for many households. There is something deeply unsettling about the way prices are changing at a much faster rate than income for far too many people. It echoes the run-up to the great financial crisis of 2008 and the bursting of the housing bubble, which had long-reaching consequences for the economies of many countries. In many ways, the bursting of the credit card debt bubble will be similarly sobering for the economy at large. Every individual consumer, however, should take a lesson from the words of Benjamin Graham, financial guru and mentor to Warren Buffett, who made a living analyzing markets and finding value where others saw none. Mr. Graham's life work can be summarized in one piece of advice, applicable to our discussion as well. Investors are always right about the short run and wrong about the long run. Your credit card debt, if left unchecked, may be a very expensive teacher, as all of the phenomena discussed above are most keenly felt in the short term. No one is entirely at fault here. You are not irresponsible. You did not fall for easy prey. You are being manipulated by systems designed by people who know far more about you than you know about them. Armed with this knowledge, you are in a much better position to avoid the traps and pitfalls of credit card debt than you were before. Loss of cash on hand, the propensity to spend now rather than save for later, minimum payments, rising prices, the Diderot effect, and reward systems are all factors that conspire to push you into debt. You do not have to give in to their combined pressures. You can, if you so desire, make sure that at least some part of your spending is painful by using cash or debit cards for at least some purchases. You can remind yourself that the minimum payment is just a number far below the amount you actually owe to the credit card company and pay a substantial amount over that to reduce your debt. Or you can deny yourself the reward system, asking yourself if I would have bought this if there were no points for spending the money. The system was never designed to help you save money. It was designed to make sure that you are always in their debt, and their profits grow by the second. You swipe your card, it beeps, approved. And now, armed with this knowledge, you know what it is asking of you.